worth remembering that we are a good ways down, over 8,000 feet down here, and because
full down.
we have a three-body problem always in front of us, we've got the ship at the surface, our Sirius camera sled, which is attached to a heavy wire below the ship, essentially, and then the D2, our Deep Discoverer ROV, on a flexible 30-meter tether that allows us to rove the seafloor below Sirius. We have to be extraordinarily careful. We have sighted the seafloor with D2 at a depth of 2,593 meters.
Bring your heading right.
Yep.
Center up on fisheye. You should be coming out the middle of my screen.
We will be moving up the shoulder of a ridge on the east side of Bryant Canyon at a bearing of about 150 degrees once we get organized. Looks like a sedimented seafloor. It's what we would have expected. No ripples in view.
Cam. Here you come in main HD, just off the left side.
Copy that.
Actually pull up some.
There's a Sea Star print, dead center screen. And it looks like we have a holothurian on the bottom left.
Your sonar. Is that okay?
Yeah, go ahead.
Please. Okay, Bobby, I'm going to push out in front of you.
ROV nav, we will be following our noses a bit here, so if we see targets on the sonar, we're going to want to investigate them.
Copy that. Watch lead.
Head out.
Video survey 2.
Go ahead, survey 2.
Can you put the quad screen on 3, please? Thanks.
Are those all the screens you were looking for?
Let me check
Go
with
ahead,
Brian. Hang on 1 second.
Okay, now you can set up and.
Yep, just going to check the Z-bias. Okay, everything's set up.
Brian,
that.
if you can hear me, if you check
Keep it if you'd like.
line 3 and make sure those are the screens you're looking
Yep,
for.
that's great.
Sonar
Okay.
target ahead. Or depression, looks like actually.
Video, that's good, thanks.
Copy of depression ahead.
Yep, that looks great.
Brian, we're going to head out at a speed of 0.1. Sing out if there's something of particular interest. We've got a lot of wire out, so stopping the ship will not necessarily be a trivial issue in terms of spatial orientation with the vehicle. So we're going to be looking forward on the sonar. It looks like we've got
0.1 knots.
some topography ahead of us.
Yeah,
Are you guys ready for that?
not quite.
Okay.
Give me just a moment, but we'll be ready for it.
This is the Okeanos Explorer. We dove in the entrance, the eastern entrance to Keithley Canyon yesterday, and we consistently saw rippled seafloor below 2,000 meters in the entrance there. We are on a similar looking seafloor here, except for the fact that we do not have ripples. This looks like a more tranquil environment, less evidence for current. At some point, gentlemen, I will want to estimate current.
Okay, Jamie, well, this is a good time. Just adjusting Z-bias right here, but you can see I haven't been driving the ROV and we're barely moving. This looks like we're drifting. Slowly to the north.
Yep, we lost Sirius.
I'll just let it drift here a little bit longer. You can see a little bit of sediment moving, or something rather, floating in the water that's moving. I'm drifting backwards at 0.02 meters a second.
Roger, thank you.
So that's generally speaking north at 2 meters a second. Okay. Nav,
Yes.
we're ready to go.
Okay.
All right, we're ready to
Alright,
move.
Watch lead. I'm gonna call in the first ship move.
There's a couple of opioids in the upper left.
I was gonna do 40 meters, if that's okay with you. We can go. We can do smaller
Hey,
jumps
Jamie,
also.
when you said you saw some potential hard ground
I think that's okay. Go ahead.
sonar, what
Alright,
are you
copy.
looking at there?
Brian, we had looked at a seismic anomaly map
Just a survey
over
map.
our new fleeter mouse, or our new multi-beam data, and we did, when we are in an area here of relatively high backscatter, all I was
We
saying
would
is
like
that
to request a ship
historically
move.
that has suggested the evidence
It's
for
gonna be
hard
40
substrate.
meters
We haven't seen anything yet.
at a bearing of 155.
Okay, so on the sonar, there's not
at
much of a trace of it, or?
1/10 of a knot.
Not yet. We do have some topography ahead of us, but we are on the shoulder of this ridge, so I would expect some topography.
Thank you.
Okay, good. I gotta leave for about an hour, leave the party, but I'll be back.
Roger that. We'll miss you.
Bearing is 155.
Copy 155.1.
0.1 knots.
Well, that's a slow move. Okay.
Start off slow and see what we find,
Okay.
as requested by Watch lead.
Yeah, ROV nav, we can.
Ship store is open. The ship store is now open.
Yeah, we can keep the ship moving at that rate. You know, if the vehicles look like they're catching up to you, you can just lay in another move.
Roger that. I'll keep us moving towards waypoint 1 until requested to stop.
We are moving out. We are at a water depth again of 2,585 meters on the D2. We are moving towards our first waypoint, which is southeast of our present position. We are moving up the shoulder of a ridge, and we will spend, when we get there, we will be spending the rest of the dive climbing that ridge over a water depth change of approximately 200 meters. And we'll be stopping,
Sorry,
as
Jeff,
we
what type
generally
of
do, for
direction?
anything of interest. This is the Okeanos Explorer.
A large shrimp in the upper left.
And Stephanie, have you been doing your homework? This is not the Royal Red, right? This is the one
Correct.
that is the relatively large equivalent of the Royal Red, but it's solitary deep shrimp, deep water shrimp.
Yes.
Partial zoom here.
I will get you the species. Hang on.
And Jeff, lasers too on these.
Copy that, Jamie. Lasers, please, Bobby.
Likely Plesiopenaeus armatus. That's what Mary said yesterday. It looks similar to me, so I'm non-committal, but certainly looks like him.
Mary is from Texas A&M University and has been joining us for some of these dives. She is a encyclopedic in her knowledge of the biology, particularly the nekton of the Gulf of Mexico, and it's been very useful to have her along. We hope to have her back with us. Needless to say, the biology out here is complex. Some of it is unknown, and so as we are one biologist and one geologist out here, we absolutely rely on our experts ashore to help us with identifications and characterizations. So please feel free to do that at any time.
Okay. Full wide.
Full wide.
Jamie, do you want to run with lasers on, or just bring them on as we need them?
I don't think we need to run with them on, Jeff. If you can remember, flip them on when we see something fine, I'll remind you.
Oops.
Well, that was a living shrimp there until he did a
Collision.
head-on with the D2. We are angling across the slope here. You may notice that the D2, we are working our way up the shoulder of a ridge, and so we are somewhat angling up the slope. It's always a little more complicated from the standpoint of zooming on features. Got a brittle star on the right and a glass sponge on the left, a hexactinillid, right?
Correct.
Ha! You can teach an old dog new tricks. We've seen a lot of these brittle stars as associates on deep water corals. Up there's another one in the upper right.
Yep, there's a brittle star and a sea star, it looks like. I can't really see the small one. I'd have to zoom in tight, but
Do you want to see it?
if you have time, that'd be great.
Do you want me to stay partial?
We are not moving very quickly today. We're moving, the advance rate on the Okeanos Explorer is 0.1 knots. That's only about 180 meters per hour. And the idea here is to have ample time to zoom on features we see on the seafloor.
That looks like a star to me. Also, when you guys get a chance, if you could look at the sponge, there might be amphipods in it.
Okay, now let's zoom in a little more and get lasers on the star.
Oh, he's pretty big, 10 centimeters. Yeah, so sea stars are in a different
Drifting
class?
backward a little bit.
Copy drift.
than brittle stars. So brittle stars have a central disk, and sea stars don't. So they look similar. They're both
Just let me know if
echinoderms,
you want me to.
Yeah, pull out.
but they're
Okay.
cousins as opposed to, I guess, brother and sister, if you will.
It's full wide.
They're closely related, but
Far
not that
above it
close.
anyway.
And they're neighbors in this case.
Yes. So we see two of them together here.
When you see them on the seafloor, I rarely see any evidence that they are either moving or capable of moving, but we've certainly seen the arms move a lot when they are up in the water column with a deep water coral.
Great
Yes,
snap.
and they have done time-lapse photography of a lot of these brittle stars off California. And it's quite amazing to watch them move in time-lapse. But really, you can't really tell when
Great
you're watching them a
RV
regular time.
Well, I wouldn't think they'd have to move faster than,
Okay,
than
yeah, let's
their
move on to
their
the
feeding
sponge.
requirements. So
They're slow goers.
we saw a lot of these
Partial.
yesterday. They were generally up oriented. Their long dimension was parallel to the what we perceive to be the current direction. We don't know what the current direction here is, but it might be interesting to use the sponges as a proxy for current direction. And if that were true, the prevailing current direction here would be into the sediment a
Still
bit,
a little zoom
and
left.
and that might make sense in terms of the fact that the up canyon direction would be to our upper left.
So we're trying to look down into this sponge to see if we can see the amphipods in it. I can see them on the outside. They're like cream-colored spots. But until we get to look down the hole, or the osculum, we won't be able to see them.
And you might explain why they happen to be in there.
No, I don't think anyone really knows. They are too big to enter as adults, so they have to come in the larval stage, and then once they're in there for life, and they're usually a male and a female, a mated pair, and they call these sponges wedding sponges, and they actually give them away as wedding gifts. I think in
Pull it
Japan.
tighter when you're ready.
Gives new meaning to the term wedlock.
Yes.
Time to get moving.
Can I do
Okay,
a
we're
quick
only
zoom?
going to have
There's
just a
one.
moment here.
That's fine, guys, as long as you can stay.
Lost it.
Sorry.
That's
okay.
good work,
Wow.
Jeff. That's fine.
We saw him.
Pull back.
We will likely have other
Full
opportunities.
wide.
Okay, thanks.
Good work, though. The part of the complexity here not only is the water
Great
depth
carabiner.
and the amount of cable we have out, but the fact that we are angling across the slope. So as we do that, it's always easier to move upslope or directly
Thanks, Bob.
across a slope with ROVs because it allows you a little more maneuverability, a little more freedom to move laterally. When you're angling across a slope, it's always a little
I'll
more
just scoot out
complicated.
ahead of you, and then we'll look for something else.
Bridge, ROV nav.
You, under me, has been the first altimeter point
So
that
we're
I've
gonna,
received all dive.
Be continuing in this direction. So if you could give
So
me
Jamie,
heads
are we
up when
moving
have 10
toward
meters
that
left
sort of
in the
high
move?
high
And-
sonar?
Okay,
return
so we
target?
extend it another 40 meters. At
Yeah, you're
155
moving
at
up that
4.1
shoulder to
About
the ridge, which looks
30
like it's
bearing.
less than 70 meters in front of us.
We have a small Sarianthid in the bottom right, which is an anemone.
Correct.
It looked to me like we were on high backscatter here for most
Okay.
of this
On
run
the
up
way
to the
in, I
ridge
think
top.
we just want to be aware of the sonar targets.
There's also 3 holothurians we've just passed.
Zoomed in on the backscatter here, it looks like the
There's
highest
something
areas of
stock
backscatter are
like
to our left
here.
and to
Let's
our right
take a moment to find this.
Yep.
as we
Let's go
transect
in
up.
partial, Dan.
We have a topographic high, an enclosed high to the right, or more or less dead ahead of D2
I
right
think we
now,
should at this point pay
which is
primary
just
attention to
which is
the
adjacent to waypoint 1. We'll get up on that before we leave.
Is this a worm? of
Looks
some
like
kind?
we have 2 worms.
Yeah. Swing arms?
Pilot, you want to swing off?
Sure. No reason not to have them here.
ROV nav watch lead.
Go ahead, watch lead.
I think when we get to waypoint 1, we are going to stop. There is a small high due west of waypoint 1 that we'll want to take a look at.
Stocky item here.
Copy that.
There it is.
Still at partial.
And let's go in again. Try and push him a little bit here.
Still partial.
Yep, we have 2 worms. Believe I'm seeing feeding appendages poking out the top.
Got a variety of grain sizes at the seafloor. We've got these the white flecks are presumably mostly pteropod shells. These are snail shells.
All right.
We're
Thanks,
probably
Dan.
getting
Tight on
close
the-
to the
Tight on the
Oh,
to
Into
the
sure.
chemical limit of these because around 2,500 meters or so they begin to get dissolved. Seawater is undersaturated with respect to the type of calcium carbonate those shells are
That's a tough one.
made of. Got a variety of grain sizes at the seafloor, probably indicative of the proximal presence of harder substrate.
And I didn't move
We're
the
headed
camera, I just moved this
due
up.
west of our first waypoint is an enclosed high, which we will investigate
Wide.
as we move upslope here.
There's also seems to be a field of
Full wide.
small Sarianthid anemones as you look center screen.
Do you need to zoom on any of those, Steph?
Maybe just one, if you
Okay.
can.
Let's go in video and we'll see what's in the middle of the screen.
Hey guys,
Hi, Mary.
Mary Wixon on again. I have the book Face of the Deep by Heesen and Hollister, and they have an illustration of Euplectella that
75
indicates that the
degrees.
top end
Copy
is oriented away from the current, so the bend of the colony would be up current and the opening is down current. Is what you've been indicating?
Well, we've suggested that the long axis is along the current. We couldn't tell. What I've said was that they appeared to be oriented up canyon, but we couldn't tell from the nature of the ripples whether the flow was up canyon or down canyon.
Thanks.
Thanks, guys.
There's one to your starboard. At
So that
15
means that the
meters.
flow is up
Full wide.
canyon, at least close to the bottom.
15 meters to starboard.
Certainly
That's
at
fine.
the eastern entrance to
I need to
Keithley,
move
what
ahead.
canyon
Yeah.
or what current we saw
it's,
yesterday
head
was
to your starboard.
going up canyon.
You can't get to it, that's fine.
Okay. let me
That might
push-
not have been anything, actually.
Let me push ahead and look to the right.
Yeah, I'm not seeing it anymore.
Charlie Hollister was one of my advisors at Woods Hole way back when, Mary.
Yeah, it might have been an artifact.
Could be. Well, at any rate, his book has an illustration of a euplectella that's built at kind of a right angle, and the band is the direction from which the current is coming.
Huh.
Very cool.
There you go. Thank you. And that book came out in '71, I think, so we can always learn, even from things that have been around a while.
Well, the trouble is people don't repeat these things, so you have to go looking in older works to find them.
Charlie and Bruce Hazen had the benefit of a lot of U.S. Navy support back in those days to look in the deep ocean. That's, without being too editorial, that's a more difficult prospect these days.
Ridge.
Yeah, a little hummock here.
Yeah, there's more off in the distance.
Oh, there are, yes. I don't
Larger.
think I can't really get over that way, but it's interesting to see that one.
Yeah, we do have some topography evident on the sonar, essentially dead ahead of where D2 is now. So we'll be looking at that as we come along.
Yeah, it was a little off of our path of travel. Jamie, I'm not going to be able to get all the way over to those ripples.
Roger that. There is a high due south of us. There is a high due south of us, though. It's slightly west of waypoint 1. It might be good to lay in ship moves more or less due south now rather than to waypoint 1.
Copy that, watch lead. So shift to due south. Bridge, ROV nav. Can
Now
we
facing
change our
due
ship
south.
move, please? We're going to do 40 meters at 180 at 0.1 knots.
Zoom.
Standby one.
Oh. Wow.
Crinoid?
Once we are
What is it?
bridge,
Further when
I-
you're ready.
Don't know.
once we're up this ridge, it'll be to the south. It'll be
No,
any
that's a
direction
sea
but
pen called
east.
Umbelula.
There you go. Mary knew. Mary, I think
you
you need to come on this ship. Switch places with me.
Currently, it's west or north.
And say
It's
again what it is, Mary?
A sea pen.
Sea pen?
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Umbelula, Umbella.
Hi, pilots. We're shifting our bearing to 180.
Video, what's that?
I hope your
approaching
students appreciate you,
D2?
Mary.
Let's go in on Sirius, please.
Looks like there's an associate in there as well.
Jeff, don't make any quick movements.
No quick movements. Copy that.
Got someone coming in to
Wow,
your
that's
left.
amazing.
Zooming in.
I don't think we've seen that,
Is
have we?
that full
Nope,
zoom?
that's new to our trip.
Not quite. I'm zooming in on Sirius at the moment.
Incredibly delicate looking. I wonder. Oh yeah.
We got a cool fish in Sirius too.
It's gonna come into your view, actually.
All right.
Okay.
I'm going to pull back on.
Yeah, pull back
HD
out,
cam.
see if we can get this fish. I'm
Getting a
tilt
nice
down.
Pull out
Nice
of Sirius
view.
too, please.
Of a
You got
pretty
it.
large fish in the Sirius cam, more or less directly below
You're
D2.
gonna take your HD2.
That's not an easy
Yep,
place for
got it.
D2 to see.
Okay, I'm just going to creep backwards a little bit.
See if we can get a glimpse of him by moving backwards on D2 a little bit. Brian, we've decided your high pack view now is showing you the high that I'm aiming
See
for,
Shadow.
There he is.
and then
HD2.
we'll head from that
go
high over to
HD2.
waypoint 2 and up the ridge.
Zoom HD2, please.
Zooming in.
You transmitting HD2?
Yes, we
No,
are.
but we're at
We are
least
now.
capturing him if he decides to scurry away.
Backing up gently.
So far, so good.
Oh, so gently.
Roger
He's
that.
actually helping you
High
out.
pack should be going out on HD2 on stream 2 in the quad.
The fish.
Oh, I'm sorry. Are we talking about high pack or are we talking about ROV HD2?
Is where? Yeah, I can see the fish.
There we go.
Just curious.
Now, I'm tempted to call that Is that another snailfish or is that a rat tail? It's pretty big.
He's pretty big. I
If we
would.
can get
Lasers.
lasers on him, he's a pretty good sized
Gonna have to tilt up.
fellow.
I'm also looking
He's
90
a rat
degrees,
tail.
so we don't have much longer with this guy.
Okay, copy 90 degrees. I'm going to back up a little quicker, see if I can get the lasers in his context.
He doesn't seem to be bothered by you
He's
at
almost
all.
a meter long.
Wow.
Okay, lasers are on him. There we go.
Oh, wonderful.
No, let's come wide on Sirius, please.
Lasers off.
Got to move on.
Yep,
All right,
pushing ahead.
I think that's the biggest rat tail we've seen.
full wide on all cameras.
Absolutely interested in us. I want to thank, I do this not enough, I want to thank Mike Vecchione and Mary
He's
and
following us.
all of the biologists that consistently partner with us from the beach. We simply couldn't do this job of characterizing, Brian, you too, without you. And you really enrich our conversations out here, and we appreciate it.
Lining your HD2 up again.
Thanks.
Control is yours.
Okay. Scooting out ahead.
Trying to pick up the pace a little with D2 to catch up with Sirius and the ship. We're moving the ship now more or less due south to get a look at this high, this topographic high, which is essentially the edge of the ridge we're going to be spending the rest of our day looking at.
Copilot, we have some
Looks like we
flickering.
have an anemone, possibly.
Try and get that.
Is that a fly trap?
I'm not sure. Can't tell from this distance. Might be multiple
try.
anemones.
Tripod
Yeah.
fish.
It's like
And a tripod on the upper left.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh, don't do that.
Uh-oh.
it's a little backwash from our own thrusters when we're moving ahead pretty quickly and then stop to see something. It's a little bit like skidding your car. You end up with a mark on the seafloor, and that's our mark. Kick up a little sediment.
ROV equivalent of doing donuts.
Right. Although the last thing you want to do with this ROV is a donut.
For a variety of reasons.
For all kinds of reasons. Exactly. Slow and steady and more or less straight lines is what we like to do.
Okay, partial zoom. Let's get started.
Yeah, it looks like a couple of
Hold
anemones.
it.
We scared them, so they got retracted. They blew dust over their heads.
Yeah, more than one though.
Yeah,
It's
it
like
looks
3 or 4, maybe 5.
Yep.
And that is a small piece of float.
maybe a burrow underneath it, the bottom.
Suggests that we'll see more of this as we get up on this ridge high.
Big
Lasers, Bobby.
bump in your sonar to your starboard.
Big bump to center, to starboard. Thanks.
Another one of those little bridges.
Okay, Dan.
Pull back.
In.
In.
Go in.
Got it.
Yeah. Got the time.
I don't know whether those are fly traps. Certainly one of them looks like a fly trap on the other side. Those don't look the same, the ones in the foreground.
Yeah. Well, the one on the top of the center screen, the orange one, doesn't have the same external texture.
Right.
But it's small, so
Smaller,
I'm not sure.
yeah. We're good, folks. When you get
Okay.
when your video is ready, we're
Dan, full wide.
Got it.
Thank you.
Full wide.
Picking up. I'm heading off to my right here a little bit. See what's over here.
we are seeing some
Another bump in Sirius.
arcuate-looking targets on sonar. Hard to tell how much relief we're actually talking about, but it does look like this is not a flat seafloor. We are climbing
There it is.
the shoulder of a ridge towards a high that's about 250 meters, 70 meters ahead of us. Brian, we've got your additional waypoint,
That ridge.
and we'll do it. It'll take us a little while to get up to this high, so we've got time.
That wasn't us. It's okay.
Okay, great.
Ridge.
Ah.
Next
Actually, you know what? As I write that, I realized I meant for that to be as we
Yes.
transit from waypoint 2 to 3.
Roger that. So we're looking at waypoint
Partial zoom.
2.5.
Got
Partial zoom.
a few things here.
Yeah, it looks like we have an anemone at your 10 o'clock, and we can take a look at that. There is some topography on the seafloor here, too. We're looking at, looks like a change in slope on the right-hand side of the view and more or less flatter seafloor in your left-hand view. These could be the ridge-looking features we're seeing in the sonar.
Partial down. Hold down.
Nav survey 2.
Go ahead, survey 2.
If we could add that.
And you may go in.
It's in between
Closer.
waypoint 2 and 3.
I'm going to zoom out on high pack. I'm going to zoom out on high pack, guys.
Getting a little close for the lights.
Actually, I think you're still pretty far away.
Oh, is that it? Okay. Felt like I was pushing in.
Yeah, I can see it past you.
Okay. Dan, pull out.
Okay.
Thank you.
Partial.
What have we got here to the right?
Yeah, you can see the nature of the slope, the steeper
Let's
slope
get
to the
that.
right. We're getting mini landslides of material down into the trough in front of us where the anemones are.
Small anemone. Looks like a
Sorry, you have to
Cereanthed.
come out a little bit.
That's all right.
And then looks like we might have a star on the mid-right.
These white flecks on the seafloor are likely fragments of pteropod shells. I'm not seeing as many whole shells
Okay.
as we saw on
Gonna
shallower
need you to
dives in
move
Keithley
on pretty
Canyon.
soon
Yeah,
here.
these look pretty
I'll
chewed up.
copy you.
I'm showing
Well,
Showing
I think they're more
showing
chemically
ground
dissolved.
onto my
I think
sonar,
we're
which
seeing
means
more
you
a case
got
of the
rise
fact that we're
coming.
getting near
Okay.
the stability depth of
Okay, Dan, you're
aragonite,
gonna have to go full wide,
and they're beginning to
and
dissolve
then
away. Seeing more in the nature of fragments here than whole shells.
They have some topography coming up. Okay. Lifting
Yeah,
up.
it's a pretty big change in slope to the right.
Oh yeah. Look at long end here. You can see. I am coming up.
Any kind of topography in this part of the world could be a result of a number of things. It could be sediment moving down slope, sculpted by current. It could be because of upwardly moving evaporates underneath the seafloor. And then the two processes working in detail, but you're seeing a fair bit of topography here now in front of us.
Watch lead 2, this is nav.
Yeah, let me have him look at that because I'm not sure that looks right.
Copy.
Give me 1 second.
I'll double check the numbers too.
Video survey 2. Can you put the high
Top right,
pack
got
on
some
3
interesting
for me?
hot marks.
Do I have time to?
Yeah, you can swim over them.
Brian, if you look at feed 3,
Side of me.
Okay.
you should be seeing the high pack. And it looks like your 2.5 waypoint is actually between 1 and 2. And I just want to make sure I got it in the right spot. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Oh, it is between 1 and... Okay, so I was unclear about what we were calling 1 and 2. My original thing was right. That, so I guess we ended we ended up calling the place we landed bottom target instead of calling it waypoint 1. So, okay, it looks correct.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, sir.
ROV nav, we're going to want to transit from waypoint 1 to 2.5 to 2, so you might want to consider renumbering waypoint 2.5 to 1.5.
But it is in the right spot, so thank you.
Welcome.
Looks like we're getting some rubble or consolidated soft bottom, huh?
Yeah, certainly.
Or clumpy.
Certainly more rubbly at the seafloor.
A couple of tube worms and some anemones.
It's a good place to be on the lookout for corals. This would certainly be the reason for high backscatter here, this rubbly seafloor.
Yeah, we'll want to be looking closely here for anything we want to zoom in on.
Roger that. It's who we are.
Brian, would you like the quad screen back up?
Yes, please.
Okay, hang on. Video survey 2.
It's already done.
Thank you.
These certainly look out like hard grounds, exhumed at the seafloor. Not seeing very large coherent pieces of hard ground. It's more rubble, but I think that's pretty uniformly hard ground in the foreground there in that view.
A nice steep slope too.
Getting closer to this topographic high at the west end or southwest end of this ridge that we're going to be spending the rest of the dive on. Looks pretty barren at the moment.
Sponge maybe right there.
Yeah, we might have a sponge center screen.
Yeah, just give us a quick zoom, please, video.
I mean, the lack of
Lasers.
the lack of sessile colonization here always suggests to me as a geologist that we might be looking at a slope that's pretty unstable and is moving.
Okay, hold that down.
Looks like a type of hexactinellid, glass sponge.
Just gonna fly over it. Okay.
Small,
Thank you.
7-8 centimeters maybe.
Full wide.
It feels to me like there's a lot less light today.
We've lost 2 lights.
Yeah,
That's
I wonder
why.
if you could bring the upper swing arms. Would it make sense to bring them in so they're parallel or maybe just slightly forward?
Sure.
Yeah, since we've lost those other 2 lights.
Brian, would this be relative to your model? This was a place where you would have expected to see both bamboo and Paramaricia corals?
Bridge, ROV nav. What's the status of that last move?
We are right now
Copy that.
bamboo corals primarily, with a smaller likelihood of Paramaricia. But we are testing the deepest limits of the predictions
yes, can we
here.
add another 40
close
meters
to the
to
deepest
that
limit.
at 180? Thank you.
Do you think this is unstable?
Well,
Your swim arms
deep
now.
water corals live a long time, and it
Justin,
takes them a long time to get going. you can't prove it, of course, but when you look at a barren landscape like this, and you ask yourself, if I were a coral, would I want to be here? It looks like places we've seen corals before, but the fact that there aren't any here suggests that it just may not be a stable enough environment for them to get started.
If it gets any steeper, you're going to be
can't prove that.
concerned about rotating those swing arms into the wall.
Interesting feature here. Looks almost like a channel of some kind.
As much as possible, I think we want to be panning to the left and the right here.
Good at the moment, though.
Roger that.
I copied that, Jamie.
Roger. Thanks, Jeff.
I'm also trying to zigzag across slope.
I think that's the idea generally.
Yeah, it looked like it became sand to the left of the screen. A small shrimp in the lower left.
There was a channel off left, heading downhill.
It was sand channel. Yeah, it was like where we had come from originally. In terms of the bottom composition.
Back toad.
Another holothurian, sea cucumber.
Did I get it? I tried not to.
Looks like we have sea star prints too. They burrow right underneath the sediment there and leave a little outline shape.
What's that?
There's another star on the upper right.
Okay.
Big guy.
We're moving slowly enough, Brian, so that our pilot, Jeff Williams, is aware that you want to try to pan left and right. Let us know if this is working for you.
Looking good. One thing, though, that to the extent that this ridge, that our waypoint 1 may be past this ridge feature that we've identified, we may want to simply follow the ridge feature up towards our next waypoint.
Yeah, but that if you're looking at high pack, that enclosed high due south of the ship right now is the top of the ridge. We're still climbing.
Okay. Oh yeah, I see that. Yep.
I just wanted to be sure that you got on to the high west of waypoint 1 before we went to waypoint 1 and then generally towards waypoint 1.5.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
This seems to be the extent of the hard bottom or the scrabbly bottom.
Yeah, I think we're going to see more of it in front of us, though, as we mount this small high to the south.
Bottom's soft unconsolidated sediment again.
Yeah, there's topography, though. You know, we're more or less on top of a bit of ridge here. And so you've got hard substrate just to the right here, so.
Sea star. I think that's a sea star. Damn.
A small star.
Snaps it. Yeah. Thank you. For what?
Brian, we are advancing, as you know, at 0.1 knot. If you are not happy with this advance rate, let me know and we can increase it.
I think it's good for now as we characterize here.
Roger that.
It's a rather steep
Really
ledge.
seeing a fair bit of topography here, and that looks like some kind of a drainage way to the right. You know, Bill Keeney, this looks a little bit like some kind of brine escape channel to me. I'm not seeing any brine in it, but it looks like one.
Yeah, it does. It's very interesting. Maybe suggesting of more to come.
Get a good zoom on this, maybe.
Yeah, that looks remarkably like brine channels we've seen in other parts of the Gulf.
Go in there, Dan. Get a feel for this bottom.
Partial.
Looks very much like a subaerial eroded stream channel.
Just hold that. I'm going to scan.
And that's what brines would do on the seafloor if they were flowing. These would likely be intermittent types of releases of brine as evaporates in the subsurface come to the surface. But this looks a lot like what we've seen elsewhere with brine involved.
Oh, look in the mini-Zeus view. You can see it's
Right, you're really seeing it's the morphology here is very channel-like.
You can see in Sirius as well.
And we might want to come out a bit, Jeff.
okay, Dan, full wide, please.
Get a feeling, give everybody a feeling for how channel-like this is.
Yeah.
Huh.
There you go.
Yeah, that's, I don't know what else would cause that in the seafloor environment except release of
ROV
brine.
HD2 cam.
Could be a sediment turbidity flow channel as well, but it's probably both. It's probably you're seeing sediment-laden flows there and brine that's eroding the sediments. That's a spectacular example.
Textbook.
Right. Yeah, let's see. We're the vehicle is now trending 150, so the strike of this is about 150 southeast. But we're going up it, so you know, we're more or less getting into shallower water. We're at a depth now of 2,546 meters.
Looks like there might be another one to your right. If you look at the sonar.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if you can get over there, but that's big depression.
Yeah, these are quite linear, meandering, look a lot like stream valleys, stream channels in the subaerial environment. And they're formed the same way by flows of fluids, downslope. Downslope is behind us into the view that you're looking at.
Oh yeah. You don't have enough tether.
No.
Not yet, at least. You're heading.
Brian, the salinity here is 34.96, and and the temperature is 4.30. Yeah, we're seeing
no anomaly in the
No. Really, really spectacular here. You see meander bars. You see evidence for flow. You wanted evidence for brine escape in these canyons, Bill. This is it.
Yeah, it looks pretty spectacular.
Okay.
Yeah, look
Keep
at
your
that.
eyes
Look
open.
at the sonar.
Wow.
It's a whole collection of them, of those little ridges.
Yeah.
It's completely barren.
Well, I don't think it surprises me why you wouldn't see corals in an area like this with intermittent escape of brine. It wouldn't be healthy for them.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I thank you, Brian, for giving me interesting geology. I'm not sure it's happy you're happy, but I am.
Stand by.
Or you're heading, rather. Let's get a good sweep on.
I'm always happy.
There you go.
It's we learn something with every dive, especially in these unexplored areas.
Going out.
Wow. Yeah, that's.
I think this is what we expected to see in Keithley, but this is really nice.
Watch this is co-pilot. You can take a look at sonar and see all these ridges pretty nicely lined up.
Yeah, I'm looking at them. It's great.
Okay, pushing ahead.
Yeah, if you look at your sonar view right now, you're seeing a whole network of these channels, all oriented in about the same direction. They wouldn't be like a river. They might not emanate from a single source. They would be, if this is a ridge actuated by salt, if the whole ridge is cored with salt, you might just see a whole series of parallel grooves where the brine leaks out. I think that's what we're looking at. We're still moving at 0.1 at 180, right?
Correct.
Thank you. Don't see any evidence. You might see evidence for brine escape as a kind of a shimmering interface, but in every other way, it has the appearance of a river channel. It's got distributaries, smaller channels. It's got intra-channel divides, that high area in the middle. It meanders the way rivers do on land. And unlike river channels on land, these would probably stop rather abruptly, and I think you're seeing that in the right-hand view of D2 right now. That would be the origination point, the spring point, the seep point of the brine from the subsurface. And in the sonar view, you're getting a good feeling for that now, and all of a sudden we're back out of them. It's worth pointing out that this would not necessarily be a continuous flow of brine. The brine would be formed by the actual contact of the evaporite with seawater. Once the dissolution happens, that contact might be closed off and no more brine would form. Gentlemen, I'm going to want to get pretty much on the top of this high, this small high south of you, west of waypoint 1. When we've taken a look around there, we'll probably stop the ship there, due west of waypoint 1, take a good look around, and then head for waypoint 1 and 1.5.
Copy that, watch lead.
There's another evidence for another channel there to the left center view. And spectacular sonar image showing these channels more or less parallel to each other ahead of us.
Bridge nav. Can we have another 40 meters at 180, please? Thank you.
Wow. That's all I have to say. Bob Carney said whoopee relative to those Paleodictyon fossils the other day, trace fossils, and these are pretty spectacular.
I bet if you come up a bit on D2, you can really light up a good area of this to the Sirius view.
Yeah, let me turn here. Oh, yeah.
Nary a coral in sight, but boy, if this isn't evidence for interaction of subsurface evaporites with the modern seafloor environment, I don't know what is. That's great stuff, guys.
Pretty remarkable. Okay, coming back down to the floor.
Well, and there are just multiple parallel gullies, channels, and it would be because if the evaporites are aligned along the ridge, if they're in fact forming the ridge in the subsurface, these brine would leak out along the edge of the ridge in parallel. So you wouldn't see a trellised pattern or what we call a dendritic pattern like you would in a stream. You just see them one after another, more or less parallel to each other, and gravity is actuating the downslope flow of the brine. We're getting up on top of this high now west of waypoint 1, Brian and everyone. We'll stop the ship west of waypoint 1 and take a good look around this high before we head out to waypoint 1 and then northeast to waypoint 1.5.
Sounds good. You know, I was going to say here, too, that one of the reasons it's particularly important to do this kind of exploration is, you know, without this, we have the assumption that, you know, any hard ground is potential habitat for coral. But looking at these geologically complex environments helps us to understand the nuances of coral distribution, and, you know, it's not just controlled by substrate.
Yeah, to a degree, it's controlled by stability. And what we're looking at here is the lack of stability of this particular place. The fact that there's a lot of topography that's changing. Periodically, you've got supersaturated salty fluids crossing the area we're looking at. and it just wouldn't be conducive to nice stable substrate for corals.
Still way up.
Schmutz?
Might be schmutz.
Is that what
Not
we're
sure.
tempted to call it? Technical term?
Yep.
Saw something very much like it on the dive yesterday.
Yeah, it might be worm related.
Okay. I thought it was stocky, but it's not.
Yeah, I thought it was stocky too, like it was going to be sticking up out of the sediment,
Schmutzy.
but it's not.
It's
I think
schmutzy.
it's just schmutz.
Stephanie is always right on top of these technical terms.
Maybe is the ROV still recording salinity, and is it normal?
I just said yes. It's completely normal. Salinity here, Bill, is 34.96. Getting up on top of this feature now. It's not a very prominent high, but we'll make sure we get to the crest of it west of waypoint 1 before moving towards waypoint 1. This is dive 9 of the Okeanos Explorer Expedition 3 to the Gulf of Mexico. We're diving on a ridge on the east side of Bryant Canyon, the easternmost of the three major drainage systems in the north central Gulf of Mexico.
You got it.
We've just crossed over what I believe to be a network of parallel channels that likely, at least intermittently, hold supersaturated salty solutions, which we call brine, which are indicators of the nearby dissolution of subsurface evaporites when they contact seawater. This entire part of the Gulf is underlain by evaporites, and when they rise, as they do when they're loaded by overlying sediment and contact the seafloor, they dissolve because they are saltier than the seawater they're in contact with, and then they flow downhill as denser fluids will do, and we've just seen evidence for that. We have not seen any brine yet, but we did see evidence for these drainage systems. And it does suggest to me that this entire ridge may be underlain by evaporite, and we may see more evidence for that as we move slowly upslope. We're looking for biology. This area is pretty much barren. We're looking at a small organism right now and some worms, but we haven't seen yet much in the way of sessile or attached to the seafloor organisms like deep water coral, but that's what we're on the lookout for today. So stay with us. This is the Okeanos Explorer.
Thanks.
Took a worm, and then I saw a Serianthe. Yep, left screen.
Full wide.
More or less on flattish seafloor now. We're getting up on top of this local high. No ripple activity to speak of. Variegated color, that's the likely the response to different amounts of organic material at the seafloor. The browner material has slightly more organic material than the lighter material. And when we get up to the top of this local high, we'll stop the ship, take a good look around, and then head off to the east and northeast.
It's in Sirius camera. Holothurian in the Sirius camera. Another Holothurian, bottom right.
We're doing a pilot change here. It's worth pointing out that all of our pilot team sits in all of the seats. They navigate, they drive the D2, and they drive the Sirius camera sled. So we try to build redundancy in our technical team. They're all good at what they do, and we've also got some younger guys who are learning their trade. So this is one of the important points of what we're trying to do out here is train the next generation of ocean engineers. We've got a really spectacular young group of guys out here helping us do this work. This is the Okeanos Explorer. I shall also point out that we have a couple of pretty decent video engineers out here. We tend to take the video for granted, but we absolutely shouldn't. We've got a wonderful team of video professionals here as well that are bringing you the pictures you're looking at. I overlook them, but I shouldn't. I think we take the video for granted, but the zooms we do, the positions we try to get, we're being advised constantly by people who do videography for a living.
If we do our job right, we're supposed to be invisible.
Yeah, right. But of course, Roland isn't one of those invisible videographers. But we have a great team. Art, Ed, and Roland are wonderful, and they help us get the pictures that you're used to looking at. I think we all get a little complacent about how great they are, but we shouldn't. This kind of technology is expensive. It's difficult to bring to you, and it requires a coordinated effort, and we really have that out here. This is the Okeanos Explorer.
Roland is invisible, but you can always hear him.
That's Dave Wright. If there is he's actually driving D2 right now. If we can call ocean exploration a mixed blessing, Dave Wright actually epitomizes that. all kidding aside. Dave actually instructs our young engineers. He's got a lot of experience. He instructs me too, which is important.
We have a Holothurian, dead center screen.
Pilot video, shift change, just getting settled in here.
Hi, Ed.
All camera systems appear to be wide. Thank you, Dave.
Hey, can we just add 20 meters to this move?
Let's get a zoom on the Holothurian.
Roger, one Holothurian coming right up. I'm going close and see if I can get him in focus. It looks, are you parked? I don't
I'm
have
not
pilot
parked,
screen.
I am floating.
You're floating well.
Ever so gently.
Dave, are you chewing gum on the intercom?
I am not.
Well, I think Roland was wrong.
That's somebody else squeaking.
So we have a swimming Holothurian. It's probably actively eating on the bottom.
Can we
South.
laze him?
No, south. Yes.
A little bit of
180.
sargassum detritus.
Co-pilot.
And then an anemone in the upper left.
Who's that guy? We have an interloper.
I'm going to plot this
Hey,
3dB
bro,
game.
lasers, please. ROV. Left panel. Nope, left panel. Left, or there. Yes, thank you. All right, maneuvering.
Come out a little bit. Maybe where they're hitting the front porch.
Oh, they're right
It would
there.
be interesting to see if we
they're above. Roger.
Hold.
went back and gridded our multi-beam at a higher resolution for this feature, if we could make out the channels on the bathymetry.
I was actually thinking that over the hummocks we were on.
That's good for the
I wonder what it
lasers.
looked
Thank
like.
you,
Because
Brian.
And I think we've covered this object.
in the backscatter, you could just see like parallel
Wide-eye.
lines.
So pilots,
I wonder
the
how far
plan
down
is
it
to
goes.
hit the top of this
Pretty neat to see.
feature here, and then get the vehicles on top here, explore a little bit, then head
In the
northeast
past,
to
Mimi's been able to
waypoint
grid
1.
as fine as 5 or 10
_5.
meters,
Yeah.
depending on how many lines and how
They want
dense
to
the
keep it
pings
at
were.
point 1
Yeah.
until they say
I
otherwise.
know we only
so
did 2 lines right over the
that's
spot,
what we'll
but
do.
it should, I mean, definitely covers it. Not sure how high she can get it.
You can work a little closer than that. This is, otherwise I'll just fade into the darkness there.
Another Holothurian, center screen.
Can I get more position just so I know where we are at the top here?
Yeah. We're at 25, 54.9401
Quick zoom eye.
by 91.
Holding.
Okay, we have a aggregation
57.5167
Bringing your levels
west.
down.
Ooh.
I knew you'd like that stuff.
Let's zoom in on those.
Yeah,
Hey,
we're working
thanks.
it. A little bit more zoom, please.
More
Vito.
zoom.
Just hold that. That's about good for
A couple of anemones on maybe Hylanema stalks. Not positive. What they're sitting on, but that's what it might look like. Can you guys zoom in and see what they're sitting on, or can you not get closer?
please.
Roger. Stopping on your command.
Let's hold there.
Huh.
Feels like we might be.
Yeah, I'm not really sure.
Oh, no, we're good now.
That looks like a piece of channel. It could be metal channel. A little bit more
Right.
zoom now.
Channel.
Yeah.
Could be plastic.
Oh,
Could
human
be
debris?
aluminum.
Oh,
It's
wow.
not steel. It's a bit of structural.
Trying to focus on the object here. There we go.
Yeah, structural something.
I see it now. So it looks like you
I'm
got a
inclined
couple.
to say
No, that-
aluminum or plastic channel.
Okay.
Okay, pull out a little bit, Ed.
Roger, can we lace that to get a maybe a width on it?
So they've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 or 7 anemones on
So maybe
human
7
debris
centimeters.
of some kind.
Yeah. That's pretty good.
Yeah, thank you.
Concur.
Lasers
Coming
off
out.
and wide, please.
Wide eye. Pilot video full wide.
Thanks.
Okay, what did I miss?
ROV nav, I think we can lay in a ship move towards waypoint 1.
Copy that. Towards waypoint 1 or directly east? Is it?
No, I think waypoint 1, which I think is about east, and then we're going to head up towards waypoint 1.5. Point 1 knot.
Copy.
Yeah, I saw that. A depression. Just port.
Some burrows on the bottom left. Looks like a double-ended one.
A little bit more zoom, please, Ed.
Roger, zooming in.
That's good.
Go ahead,
Possibly
Bridge.
collapsed.
Copy, thank you.
is a little bit different looking sort of hole.
I think it's collapsed.
Yeah, I'm not convinced we're not looking at some kind of brine escape feature there too. I'm not sure that's biological.
Bring our levels down just so.
I think you're right. It doesn't look biological to me.
It's very round.
Pilots, when you're ready, we've been instructed that we're down on the top of this feature here, and waypoint 1 is our next target. And that is
Parcel ship.
East from us.
east of us,
You can
exactly.
take us there now.
Copy that.
Given the channels we've just seen off this high, it would make sense that this high might in fact be formed by upwardly mobile evaporates in somewhere in the subsurface, and I don't think that feature we just saw is biological. I think we're going to see a whole series of features that we think are related to the interaction of subsurface evaporates with seawater.
Do you see that?
And that might not bode well for a lot of encrusting biology. We'll see.
Right third of the frame, 1/8 of the way up from bottom. It's a little U-shaped
Bridge,
object
Nav.
moving from right to left. Center frame now.
Hey, ship move, please.
Oh, got it. Okay, stand by.
60 meters. 60
Go
meters,
zoom.
100 degrees,
Roger, coming in.
1/10 of a knot.
Who is that?
Good copy, thank you.
Okay, more zoom.
Yeah.
Hold.
Copilot, that'll actually make your
What is
your bearing 1
it's
Oh,
a
it's a
hermit
hermit
crab
crab
with
with
we're a little
something
north
on it.
of the target now.
If you can get closer to that, that'd be great.
Working
Hermit
on it.
crab moving in storage.
Hold that.
It's like 2 anemones or something on a hermit
Yeah,
crab.
I was going to say, he's dragging an anemone with him, huh?
dual anemones.
Gee, that's a lot of work.
We're working in closer.
You must wonder why
The
he's
hermit
having...
crab called Parapagurus pilosum manus that commonly associates with zoanthids, but this is a really tiny one.
Feels like we're coming
A
in
tiny
a
one
little
with
bit.
big anemones. Poor guy.
Yeah, we're getting closer.
He
That's
seems
my
to be doing all
intention.
right.
Roger.
I don't know. It's all a question of how you look at it, I think. Ugh. Ugh.
Well, some evidence that the hermit crabs that have anemones on their shells are to some extent protected from predation by cephalopods, octopus and such.
Oh, really?
There you go. Except they don't get to choose whether they are encrusted with an anemone, right?
Well, that's a interesting question. Could it remove it if it chose?
Some of the shallow ones actually do choose anemones, but I don't know what these fellows do at this great depth.
Huh.
Then we're a little further out.
Mary, could they remove the anemone if they got tired of it?
The shallow water ones belong to a different family, and they pinch around the base of the anemone, but I don't think these fellows have much of a choice.
I guess they could vacate their shell and find a new home, though, yeah?
Well, shells are in short supply, too.
Yeah, yeah.
Attention. GVA LeBron, report to the boat deck. GVA LeBron, report to the boat deck.
We can move on, Dave, anytime.
Wide, please.
Wide eye.
Okay, Brian, I will get myself eastward.
We are now going to move off this high. Waypoint 1 is just off this high to the east. And then we will move to the northeast some 250 to 300 meters towards what we're generically calling waypoint 1.5. It will take us slightly off this ridge in a meandering fashion, and then we'll come back to the ridge crest on waypoint 2. The idea being to cover a little ground both along the crest of this feature and slightly off it. We're looking for biology, we're looking for interesting geology. We've never been here before. Human eyes have never seen this piece of seafloor before, and so that's always exciting. This is the Okeanos Explorer.
Just wanted to get a peek at this before I take off.
Some kind of burrow or dig in the sediment.
Half zoom, please.
Half zoom eye.
Just seems to be
Pretty big.
About there.
keep coming. I'm trying to figure out what this is. This
Material right
attached?
there, Roger.
Yeah, it's just more shell.
Looks like pteropod shells.
Shell fragments.
Yeah.
Just wondered why they were.
Ooh, there's that
Concentrated there.
iris jump I was
Yeah,
telling
but
you
the
about.
interesting thing geologically is that we're
Okay, wide,
seeing
please.
Wide
small channel features coming off these highs, and I don't think they're biological. I think we're seeing these little highs leaking brine.
Beautiful
We're not
white.
seeing any brine. I can't prove it until we see brine coming out of one of them. But I'm really looking forward to actually seeing that before the end of this dive. I think we found a place where that phenomenon is taking place.
There's
There's
that
the
big
silver
tripod.
tripod fish.
Yeah. They spook
If
easy.
history
Yep, yep,
serves,
yep,
he
yep.
will not be happy that we're here.
Yep, let's just calm ourselves down.
Yeah.
Let's see. Yeah, what we can do with this guy.
Yeah, he knows the D2 is there, and he's generally not happy to just stand around. We have two different types of tripod fish we've been looking
we
at,
go.
a silver one and a blue one. You can tell I'm a geologist. That's about as far as I can go in characterizing them. But the silver one is very antsy around the D2, doesn't want to stick around. The blue one is quite comfortable holding position and letting us see him or her on the seafloor.
See if I can.
I think as long as he doesn't, once they swim up in the water column, then they're pretty spooked and they leave us. But just a repositioning.
Jamie, I think we could increase the speed to 0.2 on this next transit to 1 and then to 1.5 if it's operationally feasible.
No worries. ROV nav, let's increase that speed to 0.2.
Copy that. Pilots, are you okay with increasing to 0.2?
Okay
I knew you'd get bored with geology, Brian.
Half zoom eye.
Bridge nav.
Beautiful.
Just hold there a sec.
Holding.
No, I just want to cover more of it.
Can we bump that speed up to 0.2?
You can see how much higher off
Copy,
the
thanks.
ground he sits on his
Are
fins.
you coming in?
Yeah. A little more zoom.
A little more zoom. About there. Sorry, I'm having a hard time finding my focus. There we go.
Right,
Well, that one's pretty accommodating
They're pretty far away too.
and pretty
so
far away.
Yeah.
But
Got a good
Yeah,
zoom
if
on the camera.
If I get any closer, he'll skedaddle.
Can we laser him at this soon?
We'll do that on the way out.
All right, John.
Can you laser him for me?
Yeah, we'll do it on departure.
Okay.
Okay, a little bit more zoom.
Roger.
That's good for now. Maneuvering.
Oh.
There he
He's gone.
goes.
and lo and behold, before we could put the lasers on him, he is history.
Well, he's not
There he is.
far.
Well, you know,
Okay, lasers now.
but you are
please.
annoying him, Dave.
He's probably 20 centimeters or so. Probably sits 15 centimeters off the bottom, I think. Oh, perfect.
There you have it.
Nice laser.
That'll
Very
totally
good.
work.
Very good. That's great.
Okay, fish harassment complete.
You're a full
No
watch.
better guy to do it than you, Dave.
Thank you, Ed. Arthurian.
two of them?
Seems to be a disturbance over here.
You guys, I have to sign off for about an hour, but I'll be back with you later today. Bye.
Thank you very much. Well, that looks a little bit like what Steve Giddings and I were talking about the other day as some kind of a trace for an organism. It sits within something that looks more like a channel, the kinds of channels we've been looking at, but that one looks remarkably like what we were calling resting traces for organisms.
Yeah. Let's get a zoom.
And we've talked about these in reference to beaked whales that are known to dive. We're at a water depth of 2,547 meters. They've been known to dive into deeper water than that, and we also heard from Mike that sperm whales have been known to get down close to this depth. That looks a lot like what we call a resting trace for a large mammal.
So, Jamie, it seems like when we come across these things, which you have done pretty frequently, it seems like the last few days, they all, I don't know how long this is, but they all seem to be about the same size. Am I right about that?
Yeah, I think so. And these beaked whales are not nearly as big as sperm whales. These have, we estimated it at a meter to 2 meters.
Okay, wide, please.
You know, and I don't think these beaked whales are obviously a lot bigger than that, but I don't know whether they do anything other than kind of nestle down in the.
You're full wide now.
Like
Mike's saying it looks scooped out by the lower jaw of a toothed whale, not a resting place. Well, there you go. Could be. Not all of them look this way, though, Mike. I mean, some of them, that one does look like it's got a pointed end, but the others, not so much. I'm not saying this isn't a toothed whale, but boy, does that look like one. Really does.
Yeah. Looks like I can imagine one coming down, just scooping up some stuff.
Can we get lasers on that, Dave, before we leave?
Sure. There to eat.
Yeah.
We'll get lasers on it now, Steve.
There we go.
Yeah, lasers are on it now, so you can certainly see that it's a meter and a half to 2 meters long.
Yeah, does seem to be about that.
That's great. Thanks very much, Dave.
Seems to be a cluster of them here.
Yeah, well,
which
to me reinforces the fact that they're mammalian, they're biologically induced, they're not. Really interesting.
I don't know what that is.
Everybody's squinting in unison here.
Human debris is my guess.
Quick zoom, halfway. It's very plasticky.
Trash bag or something?
Yeah.
Wide, please.
Wide eye. Go ahead, Bridge. Full wide. Copy that. Can we add 15 meters onto that?
Seems like there might be like 3 parallel
copy, yes,
channels
thank you.
here off to your starboard. Or more. Brighten you up here a little bit.
Looking due south.
Roger that. And again, we're looking off the edge of this feature to the south. Another one of these features, and we're seeing a lot of them in the sonar view now. More or less lineated grooves in the seafloor, which I've previously described as being potential sites of brine escape. Simply don't know what else could cause this. These collinear grooves.
Looking east. Put in something.
There's something center screen.
Yep. I don't know if it's another tripod fish or...
Certainly must be times if this is brine escape when things are pretty active here. You can see both sides of the channel in the foreground there, the near side and the far side.
I'm adjusting your exposure on descent.
Roger that. Creeping in.
Maybe another lizard fish?
You know, Jamie, up at the flower gardens, much shallower than this, there's a depression in the eastern part of the East Flower Garden bank. It's about a mile across and probably 15 meters deep overall compared to the surrounding terrain. And we've always hypothesized it to be a depression caused by dissolution of brine from below that leaks out into the East Flower Garden brine seep, a small, very small basin on the east flank of the bank. So it's tiny compared to the larger depression that's caused by the dissolution of the salt from below the bank in a larger sense. But that depression could, is on a larger scale than this, but it could be equivalent mechanism-wise to why you might be seeing smaller depressions here. It could be dissolution from below that you never actually see manifested anywhere near here because it comes out somewhere else. But it is caused by the dissolution of salt from below the surface.
Yeah, well, I think we're going to see a lot of dissolution-related landforms here if we're right about this, and I think we are. We could see both large and small evidence for collapse features, drainage pathways. We'll just see as we keep moving up this ridge, but this ridge, because of the fact that it's a ridge, is where the action would be. It's the highest point where if the evaporites are moving up and actuating this entire feature, along the edges and the crest of this feature is where we'd see most of the action. So we'll just have to keep looking.
Right.
Okay, pilots, we're at waypoint 1.
At the flower gardens, you can see faulting associated with that big depression, so it's pretty clear that that's what it really is. So we did a volumetric
ship move in if
analysis
we'll
once,
right through waypoint 1.
estimate how much salt it would take in dissolution
Copy that.
to keep up the flow that we see at the East Flower Garden
Auto
bridge.
XY
You can measure
likes
the
to
flow at the
take
overflow,
off
it's a little
downhill.
waterfall there. And
Why?
it sort of matched what you'd expect over a long period of time to dissolve from beneath that bank. It does make sense that that's what really is happening up there.
Let's get some zoom here, Ed, while
Now, in
we're...
this part of the Gulf, I've
Roger.
seen a lot of pooling, but I haven't seen a lot of active flow.
Well, that's it. I mean, we're seeing a lot of what we would call relict evidence, evidence that isn't active right now, but it's clearly the smoking gun of things that happen periodically, and periodically could be anywhere from
Yes, I do. Let's zoom some.
days to decades. There's no guarantee that this is happening a lot relative to human timescales, but it's certainly enough so that when it does happen, it's creating a lot of erosion.
So we have a C-pen in the upper left, and then a holothurian to the right. This is the same C-pen we saw earlier.
Some more zoom.
Dave, were you in auto altitude when it was doing that?
I don't know if anybody said so recently, but that sea cucumber on the right is
Auto
something
XY
we
and
call
auto altitude could have been fighting.
benthidites.
Benthidites?
If you weren't completely still before you put auto XY on.
Understood.
I'll try to bring that down a little bit here.
And this C-pen is Umbellula. It's quite
Did you
beautiful,
call it,
huh?
Stephanie?
Umbellula.
was down.
Umbellua. Umbellula. My Latin is failing today. I'm sorry.
Umbellula, Mary would say.
Umbellula.
Umbellula.
Thank you. Creeping.
It's quite beautiful, huh?
Yes, it was.
Really beautiful.
Yeah, and as we said earlier today, this is the second one we've seen. We hadn't seen these before.
A little bit, help you.
That's perfect.
Get 'em.
And we've seen that guy before. We've blown him over a number of times, or ones like him.
This fellow has a protrusion, Steph. What's...
Yeah, posterior dorsal appendage. And
function?
I don't know. Robert, is that sort of a function of any kind?
Co-pilot, our next move is bearing 045.
The experts don't know, Dave. Sorry.
Well, I'm in good company then. Roger that.
And ship move is underway.
Okay. Let's come wide, please.
Coming wide.
Thank you.
Watch these. We're on our way to waypoint 1.5.
Thank you very much, sir. We are essentially at waypoint 1. We're changing course. We're proceeding towards waypoint 1.5, which is at a bearing of about 0.45. And the target distance is 250 meters or so, and we'll be headed there at 0.2 knots. We're crossing these big features now, and the Sirius camera gives you a wonderful view of those. Parallel, I would call them gullies or rills, R-I-L-L-S. You tend to see these where seeps happen on slopes, submarine slopes. They tend to happen, they're parallel features, and they generally are seep-oriented, so we that's the term we often use for them. Pretty spectacular.
There's our silver friend.
Yeah. Looked like he was using his fin in an up-down motion, not side to side.
Heading downhill. Thank you. Yeah, getting strung out down. Something sticking off the...
There's two stalks, potentially center frame, and then more as it winds up that mound to the right, maybe.
I think I'm seeing a sponge, but I'm not quite sure.
Yeah, it's a glass sponge pointed to towards port.
Yeah. Holothurian scat. Sargassum.
There's an object just off frame to the left. Or are you coming uphill now?
Downhill.
Oh.
But, well, it's undulating, but I just came down a...
On this heading right now.
Bit of slope.
Okay. Bring up the darks a little bit.
Starfish.
Is that a brittle star? That looks really large.
Lasers, please.
Doesn't that look big for
Yeah,
a brittle?
if we can get a zoom on, I don't know that they're both the same, but we get a zoom on one of those, Dave, that'd be great.
Okay, come on in, Ed.
Coming in.
Lasers are on. We've seen this fellow before, not the same guy, of course.
Okay, a little more zoom, please, Ed.
More zoom, right?
lasers off, please. Lasers off. Thanks. And just a smidge more zoom.
Roger. You want to still keep them full frame?
Yeah. He has new growth on all arms.
Yeah. Yeah, I concur. A little bit less on the one pointed off towards about 11 o'clock.
Yeah. Okay, full wide, please.
Full
There's
wide.
another one in the distance. Right over this way. There it is.
This one's got some regeneration as well.
Get a quick zoom on him, Dave. I think it might be the same fellow, same kind of fellow. No, it's a. This one's different, I think.
Amputation somewhere.
Just drop him down a little. Okay, zoom.
Zooming. Holding.
This one doesn't look quite as healthy. A little chewed up.
A couple faults on your
I see that.
two thrusters, dude.
Okay. Full wide, please.
Full wide eye. Full wide.
Thanks.
Same two, port vert, forward lat.
See the nature of that, and we can see it in the sonar, that these channel features. This one's pretty flat lying, but there are others in the middle distance now, and you can see a lot of them in the sonar view. We are now on our way from waypoint 1 northeast approximately to waypoint 1.5. And our target distance, our distance to waypoint 5 is about 135 meters. We're traveling at 0.2 knots. That's about 370 meters over an hour over the ground. Really spectacular looking drainage features on the seafloor. Another one here. trend of these features I pointed out before is about 330 or 150 degrees. They're a lot more or less parallel to each other. And the 330 trend is approximately downslope into a divide off this ridge to the northwest.
It's pretty channeled. I can throw in some more gain if we're going to stay up about 3 meters.
No, I'm coming back down. I just wanted to follow that off.
Roger.
A little ways.
Copy, thank you.
Give everybody the lay of the land.
Bridge, can we go ahead and add another 75 to that move?
Running your levels down.
Getting a little popping off on you, Brian. Sorry. And starting downhill again.
Certainly not seeing much in the way of encrusting biology. We're seeing a little bit on the seafloor, some holothurians, some brittle stars. Not seeing anything, and I think it's an indication of how mobile and how potentially unstable this piece of seafloor ground is.
Let's get a half a zoom here, Ed. There's a...
Roger. Zooming now.
This is a worm excavation or something here.
Holding there.
Yeah, that's good.
Brian, I take your point. I'm at your disposal. We're at point 2 right now. You say the word. We can increase it if you like. Up to you.
It's kind of nondescript when you get up close.
Roger.
Okay, let's come wide.
Coming wide.
Yeah, I think let's continue at point 2 to waypoint 1.5, and then increase speed on our transit to waypoint 2.
Roger that.
C-pen.
more or less moving along one of these features now. Still no evidence for active escape of fluids of any kind. These channels might appear to meander a little bit. They look more or less straight in the sonar view, but they do meander a little bit in our video view.
Kicked up a little turbidity flow here. Oh, what is that?
That's
Wait a
not
minute.
you.
Is that a rock or is that a creature? Because it's
That's not you.
Ah, right.
taking off at a
Well,
very
it's moving fast, whatever it is. We've seen, you know, we used to see this in the Med. It was either fish or sometimes rays. Let's see what our folks think here. What is that? Wow.
half zoom. Hold.
It's a moving dust storm. Is it a ray of some kind? It's certainly.
No, I think it's
a fish, according to Mike Vecchione.
really. It's a very interesting method of camouflage there. It looks like a chunk of.
We have not seen one of him before. Yeah, he's finally stopped. Maybe he thinks he's run far enough, but he can't escape us. We'll see if we can get a clear view of him.
I think we've just chased a rock down the hill, frankly, but I think I knocked it loose.
Pretty spectacular little run there. Yeah, it looks less like a fish as we get close to it. What is it? No, I'm not sure it's not a rock. But I've never seen a rock do that.
Well, I think the slope is greater than we might.
I just thought it might be a rock rolling down slope.
It was sliding.
You know, he was meandering, though. He wasn't running. You know, gravity doesn't like meandering paths. But it certainly looks like a rock to me.
If it was a rock, I guess it shows us the instability.
Yeah.
Well, that's right. I'm open to suggestions. I've never seen a rock do that, but
Hold. Yep. Yeah,
let's get lasers on it anyway.
Lasers, please. Ryan, lasers, please.
Mike calls it an octocephalus, and Mike, can you?
Zoom out a little.
He says it looks like a batfish, but that looks like sediment to me. But was the fish under it, perhaps?
No.
I thought I saw an eye when it was moving.
We just chased a chunk of mud down the hill.
Boy.
Okay,
you
pull
got
out
me.
a little bit.
Out eye.
I mean, if you can zoom back out, Dave, and just show the track it took, it wasn't straight. We're now zooming in on a rock that moved very fast across the slope.
Okay.
And I thought it was
That's
alive,
full
but now we're not so sure. It certainly didn't take a straight shot.
It also is pretty soft material. You saw how it broke away from itself there.
Right. I'm tempted to think it was something using a rock for cover, or that was partially buried in sediment and carried the sediment with it for a while when it was moving.
Weird.
You can see that it did not take a straight path.
The origin of some of those linear features in the sediment that we've seen throughout the mission, and a bit of living geology there.
There's another
Yeah,
one.
I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There's
I'm
some
not.
tracks.
I'm not a big fan of living rocks, though. And there's another one next to it. So
I did this.
I
knocked them loose, and down the hill they went.
Rock if there's 3 of them.
It does. It does. It absolutely does. And you know, potentially it's riding on you know, a super dense fluid, or it's very unstable sleep floor. Nonetheless, I don't think it's biology.
We have a ship
Fascinating.
move underway, I think, or we could try it again.
Okay. Well, I got to turn around and.
I think we have to go, though. Well, let's all think about it. Maybe we'll see more evidence for it as we go. We're still headed to waypoint 1.5. ROV nav watch lead.
Go ahead, watch lead.
I think when we get to 1.5 and make the turn for point 2, let's if it works for everybody, let's go to point 3.
Instead of point 2?
That is correct.
Roger that.
When you zoomed out away from that rocket, it does seem like it was a downslope orientation there, pretty much.
Yeah, that was pretty weird. I watched the recap of it. Roland replayed it for me. That was really interesting. I mean, and it just ends like.
When we were following it, it looked like it was level. But when you backed off from the zoom, I could at least guess that there was a slope there.
A slope, okay.
Yeah, there was quite a slope, and I think it was skiing on a layer of quite slippery sediment.
Right.
Copy, thank you.
Another holothurian?
Yeah, and a fly trap just disappeared.
It disappeared into the sediment?
No, it disappeared
off screen.
Off screen.
Oh.
I have to scurry here for a bit.
Yeah.
Bridge, can we add 30 meters to this same move? Thank you.
Oh, sorry, Brian.
Did you see I'm moving? I think it's just a shrimp. Right where the lasers are.
Okay, back on the reservation. Well, that was fun.
Having a pilot change.
Gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen. Thought I'd come early so I could sit with you guys for a couple minutes.
Yeah. Pilot, video, you're
Video.
full wide.
Full wide, thank you. That one? Oh. Ship track northeast.
045.
Okay. Ship speed.
0.2 of a knot.
Thank you.
So Mike just posted a link to a batfish that plows up sediment as it escapes. So that might have been what we were seeing.
Is there anything we're looking for, or just anything that comes along?
Looking for
anything that comes along. Anything that comes along is fine.
It looked really interesting earlier. Hummocky and some channels.
Yeah.
Shall we take a quick look at this fish?
Sure. Probably a tripod fish.
Video, I'll get stable and then we'll go in.
Roger that. Myrising down as you descend.
Okay. Go ahead in.
Roger, gone in. I think he's just on the near side of the sweet spot of our light pole.
This is the short-finned one we've been seeing. Sitting on its pectoral fins and its tail.
Stephanie, has anybody come up with an idea on this fish yet? We've seen it so many times, but I'm finding it when I'm looking around.
No one's given me a name that I can remember, and Andrea doesn't seem to be on the line today, but I can try and pin her down next time she pops on.
Copy, thank you.
Is it time to go, Brian? Okay. Let's come out.
Roger, coming out.
Up and away.
That's full wide pilot.
Thank you. Just pass over this as we go. Have we been seeing lots of holothurians?
Yeah, they're pretty common out here.
Okay, I won't make a stop then.
No,
Just say hi to him.
Yeah, we've seen at least 20 of them. So.
He's waving back.
Looks like there's some more slide marks here. It might be biological.
The slide? No, I didn't.
Bridge nav. How much left do we have in that move? Great, thanks.
I'll walk it back.
Watch leads, we just finished up that ship move. I'm being told that you want to continue on to waypoint 3. Just wondering if you'd like to go at continue at 0.2 knots or speed it up to 0.3.
Let me check with Bryant. Brian, did you say you wanted to skip waypoint 2 and just go to 3, or do you want to go to waypoint 2?
we're heading towards waypoint 1.5 right now, and from
yeah.
there, I wanted to increase speed to 4 knots and head towards waypoint 2.
Okay. So yeah, we're gonna increase to 0.4 knots and go to waypoint 2, not 3.
Okay, copy that. Pilots, the ship is just coming to a stop.
We're actually at waypoint 1.5 right now, Brian, so you know.
Okay, so we want to head to waypoint 2 at 0.4 knots. Is that something that sounds reasonable to you?
No, not if it's this steep, but it looks like it's going to flatten right out. Okay.
Whatever you guys can do will work for us.
I don't. Can you come down a little? Give me some leash.
It's quite steep here.
Let's see if I've got the leash to get over there.
This 45 or 50 degree angle on this slope.
Sure.
I'll just clock around and then head uphill if I have the tether. Has there been any experimenting with those lower swing arms, lighting wise? When they're in, you can see where those lights are pointed, they're pretty much out. Down a little would fill it in underneath, but it's Stephanie, it was suggested that I scoot along here and look at this white color texture. Is that
Sure.
okay? Gotta wait to feel the next ship move over to waypoint 2.
Yeah, that sounds good. Take a look at this white thing and then maybe pan around, get a sense as we move.
Sure.
Stephanie, do you want me to settle down and zoom in on one of these white spots?
I think we were looking at a white thing that actually you passed by.
Okay.
These white spots are probably just pteropod clumps, pteropod shell clumps. But there was
I agree. I agree.
I think it's
yeah, there was something white that we flew over.
Okay.
If you can back up without.
Yeah, exactly. We flew over it, so it's not the pteropod shells we need to zoom on.
Yeah. He's gonna back up. Brian, are you at the ECC or do you have a little bit of a delay on me?
There you go. Just entered frame.
Got it. Thank you.
I have just a slight delay. I'm not at the ECC.
Okay.
Seems to be only 2 or 3 seconds, though.
Oh, that's good. So we have a Serianthid in the lower left. I can ID that from here. It looks like possible Sargassum in the upper left. And then we're going to zoom in on this white item.
So co-pilot, ship just came to a stop. We're heading toward waypoint 2. They want to bump it up to 0.4 knots, so as soon as you guys are ready, we're going to call that in.
Can you take Mini Zeus and tilt it down, please? I don't want to step on this Serianthid. Is that the right pronunciation?
Serianthid, yeah. Burrowing anemone.
No, it's still out.
I think it just looks like
just
shells
in
to
front
me.
of us. So
But
I'm going to sit down right here and we'll tilt up and have a nice lighting for that white thing.
Yeah, our only code for the event log is actually ACN for actin area, which is obviously incorrect, but there's no other anemone code, so
yeah.
I've been
watching.
them that way.
I've been watching.
We just
That's
finished
fine.
the ship move to the
That's what most
northeast.
people
You
do
might
if we don't
still
have
be
an
feeling a
official
little bit of
code for
swing.
it.
Go ahead in video.
Roger,
And then we just dialed in a move to waypoint 2, correct, Dan?
Looks like shell,
Yep.
pteropod shells.
Third waypoint 2.
And that's going to be at 0.4
Ooh, this
knots,
is
so we
small.
should feel that going pretty soon.
Isopod, looks like, or amphipod.
117.
All right, I think it's just shells, guys.
Okay.
Okay. Are you guys ready for that ship move?
Yes. By the time it gets dialed in, I'll be up and moving.
Sounds good.
Do you want to zoom on the
bridge, Nav?
Near field, the Zerianthid?
Okie doke.
Zerianthid, sure, if you've got time.
Coming line.
It's not necessary. We've seen a bunch.
Yeah,
but
we're
if,
gonna
if you're
need a
stalling,
ship move,
that works for me.
160 meters, 160 meters at bearing 117 at 0.4 knots. Thanks.
Co-pilot video, you're full wide on Sirius.
Okay, video. D2 can go in on this Zerianthid.
Roger.
There's a small
zooming
ship
in
too on the
D2
right.
on the enemy. Holding.
Oh,
Runaway.
got ahead of me.
And Nav, this
Go in if you need
direction
to.
is generally downhill to waypoint 2.
Holding.
I believe we're heading
Beautiful.
uphill. It's a
Is it
slight.
still up?
I believe it's still a slight uphill slope.
Very nice.
Okay, but just barely, huh?
Yeah,
I'm going to
it's
rock it
pretty
over to
flat.
the shrimp.
Sure.
I think it was this direction.
Yep.
And come out just a little bit
If he's
you
still
want
there.
for-
If he's still there, yeah. You get a great view of the pteropod shells on the way. Here he is.
Little guy. Is it broken back or type of Penaeid?
Go in tight if you want.
Roger, thank you.
Now that I say that, I drifted away.
I
Sorry.
just let you drift back if you'd like.
I'm going to try.
With a bit of a zoom creep, you can see his antenna there directing you in.
Coming in.
Awesome.
Oop. Tilt. Twitched. Involuntary twitch of the vehicle. It has a mind of its own sometimes.
Controls are going through 6 kilometers of cable, right?
So cool.
About 8,200 meters of cable.
Yeah.
Thank you, pilots.
You're welcome. You can come wide. I'll get set up on that next move to, what was the bearing?
117.
117, copy.
All right, so
My
we're going to
heading
head out
is
0.4 knots to
120.
waypoint 2.
I'm going to go ahead and stretch out in that direction, which is uphill, Carl.
Yes.
We will
Yeah.
be traveling uphill, so that's subject to pilot choice how fast we actually go, but we're going to shoot for it.
Say again, Roland? Sure. I see what you're talking about. Okay, pilot, my heading is 117. Looking a bit down at you. Camera is at 60 degrees.
Looks like we're going uphill.
That's your track and stretch out.
It appears I have no altitude or sonar because the bottom's soft. Some faint traces on the sonar.
It's again back on soft unconsolidated sediment with no ripples, very little bioturbation. We're at the depth of 2,565 meters in Bryant Canyon. On the east side of the slope,
Oh, that's a slope.
well, east side of the canyon, headed up slope.
Looks like your port swing arm isn't quite all the way out.
Yeah,
Something
they left it a little
just
bit asymmetrical.
frame left. Dark
Mind if
object.
I move that out?
Go ahead, Carl. Did I already pass it, Ed?
Now, if you swing to port, I think I can get it. See it right there? Swimming holothurian, perhaps?
Okay. Yeah. I think
Yeah,
nailed
we
it.
have a holothurian swimming in the water column ahead of us on the upper right. We've taped him many times this cruise.
Sounds like they've got him already.
We've caught him eating.
How's that look now?
And we have a Sarianthid on the right.
Roll there.
I think we just took away
roll
his
downhill.
bailout plan.
Another roll mark or slid mark.
Looks like it. Yeah. Bottom right.
Mm-hmm. Actually, it looks like they run up in the upper left too.
Yeah,
See
it
if I
does.
can bring him up a little. No,
You
no,
nippy
Clock around
nasties.
this guy, let him go
Yeah.
past us.
Roger that.
This one's bright red. They seem to come in different levels of, or different colors, different levels of clarity.
Nice
I
move.
don't know if they can change color or not.
It's the one I said somebody called the headless chicken fish.
Headless chicken fish.
Yeah, no, we're just
That's what
gonna-
it looks
we're
like.
just gonna let him go to exit screen right.
Roger. I'm
Headless
just gonna
chicken.
leave your
Back on
levels
track.
be.
Pretty cool. Quite graceful for a
Okay.
animal with no brain.
Okay, I'm moving up slope. I'm gonna follow that ridge line.
Sounds good.
Hey Carl, do you want to turn the gain down on the sonar? a
Wow,
little
look at
bit
that slope.
and increase the
Oh, yeah.
contrast?
Yep.
It's just
It's
so
like
hot.
70 degrees almost.
Now, turn this number down to like 60 or 55 or so. Carl. That's just the contrast. So if you turn this guy down first.
The percentage?
Yes.
I thought these side ones controlled everything.
No, it just controls this guy, doesn't it? That's the contrast gain.
Interesting. Okay.
You know, the fact that you can get that much slope and not see any rock outcropping just is testimony to the thickness of the overlying soft sediments in the Gulf of Mexico.
Yeah, it's different. It's weird. I mean, I'm sure Jamie would have much more to say about it, but.
I'm fairly sure that first one is the
Ooh, there's a
Oh,
nice
there's a
burrow.
big
East
burrow.
Coast, if
amount
you
of
saw this,
energy in the
if you
water.
saw this much
And the second
vertical,
one
you'd
is like your
definitely
2
see
VG
outcrops.
gain.
Right? I would think
I'm
so.
gonna stop that
I
movement
mean, this is,
back up.
I've never seen the bottom like this. They're so soft and heavily angled. You have a nice burrow right on the
Pretty,
edge of this.
pretty unique to the, well, I don't know about unique to the Gulf of Mexico, but it's part of the Gulf of Mexico's character. There's so much sediment that comes out of those rivers to the north.
Right.
You know,
Ed, you wanna
Mississippi
do a
drains
little
something
zoom on this?
Roger,
well
just
over half of the
I'm not
U.S.
sure
and
how-
burrow
I
with
don't
a
know,
view.
some
I don't
big
wanna
number
set
of the
down.
whole
That's
North
pretty good.
America.
Yeah, this whole
drains
thing
into
would
the Gulf of
landslide out
Mexico.
from under
Yeah.
you, I think.
Yeah. Well,
All those sediments every year just build
I
up,
just
build up,
kissed
build
it,
up
and I
for
don't want to set down hard.
millennia.
I don't know if this is a continuous burrow or it's coming
I think that
between the two holes.
characterizes it.
Looks like it might have filled in
Okay, I'll keep moving.
a little bit.
What's the speed of your ship move, pilot?
I think we have
It's
4/10 of a knot.
0.4.
0.4.
There's another
Pretty
burrow
fast
in
for
lower
the
right.
ship.
Lower right.
I just started
There's
moving
a
at a
shrimp
pretty
in the
good
upper
clip
right
now.
and another
You can slow it
holothurian in
down
the center.
if you need.
Well, it looks like we're almost there.
Yeah, about 50 meters left in the move.
Actually, if you slow it,
And the
it doesn't do
Chinese
much good
typical.
to go fast because
It's the purple
Sear
one.
still has to catch up before we turn.
And when we hit
So you
waypoint
might as well
2,
slow
we'll
to
want to
point
just
2.
continue towards
Okay.
waypoint 3. I think at the same clip as long as things continue
Copy.
like they are now.
Okay, that works.
Watch leads, we're going to slow the ship down to 0.2 knots as we ascend up this slope.